So today we will build a beginner-friendly percussive voice very much inspired by the Moog DFAM synthesizer. It will sound more or less like this. And as always, I created a few variations of this for my patrons. If you are interested, links in the description. So I already have an empty polygrid patch. We will start with the sound sources. On the DFAM, we have two oscillators, two VCOs. We will also have two oscillators. So one will be the triangle oscillator, right? This will be VCO1. And the other one will be the pulse oscillator. So what I can do, I can just duplicate this and then right click and choose the pulse oscillator, and this will be VCO2. Now on the DFAM, we can switch between waveforms, right? I would like to keep this beginner friendly and not add any switches and such. And also, right, as we've just seen, it's really easy to just change the sound source if needed. Now again, on the DFAM, we have a decay and envelope for the amplitude. This will control the actual volume, right? So unlike ADSR envelopes where we have also a sustain stage, right? Decay envelopes will be triggered and then they will decay down, which is more than enough for percussive voices. So in our case, we will use the AD envelope. Again, I just right click it and I can change this to the attack decay envelope. So we have attack and decay without sustain, right? So we can use the triangle oscillator. And now if we hold control while connecting the second oscillator, we will already get a mix of both. Right, so I hold control and I grab the second oscillator, and now by default it will add, or it will just sum both oscillators. I would like to have level control. So again, if I right click this, we can just change this to a mixer. Right, now the envelope will go to the output. By the way, if you are coming from hardware modular or something like VCVREC, it's worth mentioning that in Bitwig, the envelope modules are a combination of envelopes and VCAs. So we actually send the audio through the envelope, right, instead of having a VCA first. Now I already have a sequence here, an 8-step sequence here programmed, right? So if I run it, we already get the sound, right? I can take the oscillators up and down in levels, change their timbre, right? Maybe I will make the triangle one also a bit spread in the stereo field, something like this. I can change the amplitude envelope, add the second oscillator. Right, so we already have some control over the patch. Now, maybe the most important aspect of this voice and what will really make it percussive is the use of another envelope. Right, so I will just duplicate the one we have and disconnect it from the triangle wave. And this envelope will add punch via pitch modulation. So on the DFAM, we have VCO1 and VCO2 envelope amount. This will send the pitch envelope to the oscillators and will add punch to the sound. Right, so in our case, we will use another AD envelope and I will send it to both pitch modulation inputs on the oscillators. Right, so now if I run this, I can add pitch modulation and you can hear that it already sounds much more percussive. Right, maybe we can take this even an octave down. Hopalach. Oh yeah. This is a great technique to add punch to any sound, by the way. Just add an envelope and modulate the pitch with it. So now let's call the first envelope amplitude envelope generator, and the second one will be pitch mode envelope generator, just so we know which is which. And now let's add the filter. So again, on the DFAM, we have a filter that we can switch between high pass and low pass. We have resonance control, and also here we have a decay envelope, right, that will control the cutoff. So let's add first the filter, and I will add it before the envelope. And of course, this will be the Moog style filter here. I just drag it to the cable, and this will make the connection for me. Now I will remove the key tracking. I don't want the pitch of the sequence to affect the filter, and we will add another envelope. So again, I will duplicate what I have and disconnect it from the output. This will be filter envelope generator, and this will control our filter, right? So this will go to the cutoff CV input, and we will have now another aspect of timbre changes, right? I can change the cutoff, remove or add resonance, and add also another envelope, which makes this even more percussive and punchy. Okay, now before we add the sequencing part, let's add the noise first. So again, on the DFAM, we have noise that we can mix in via the mixer, but we can also send noise, and we've seen this also in the previous video, we can send noise into the filter modulation and add lots of character and grit. So let's first add the noise module, right? This will be under random. Now for using it as a sound source, we can just use the mixer we already have. Let me move just the envelope here down maybe. Right, I can just send the noise to another channel on the mixer. Right, and now this will also go to the filter. If I solo this. Right, so we have also noise in the mix. And for using it to modulate the filter, again, I will use Control to add a mixer so I can mix the noise together with the envelope that we already have. Right, so I hold Control, I take another copy of the noise, and this will go to the cutoff CV input. Again, by default, it will just sum the signals together, but I would like to have also level control. So again, I will right click it and change this to a mixer. Right now I can open the attenuator here on the filter all the way because we will have level control on the mixer. So this will go all the way to the right. Right, and now I can add noise modulation. Maybe we can put this here down, noise modulation and filter modulation. Right, if I take both of them down for a second. Right, I can add envelope and also noise. And again, this will add the noise to the modulation of the cutoff of the filter. So now let's add the fun part, which really opens up this voice, which is the sequencer. So on the DFAM, we have two rows. We have one row for pitch and one row for velocity. Now the pitch we can change from the clip itself, right? So I can go just to the clip and change the notes. So I will not add a pitch sequencer, but we can add the velocity sequencer and a few others just for fun. Now I will not add the sequencers inside the patch itself because of two reasons that I will show you soon enough. But let's start by adding the velocity control, and we will do this by simply changing the level of the gain, if I zoom in a bit, of the gain of the filter or the drive, right? So with this control, this will change the volume, but it will not only change the volume, it will also change the character of the sound, which is much more fun when dealing with velocity. So again, I will not use the sequencer within the patch. We will use a modulator. So I will add a modulator, and this will be the steps one, right? It will look like this. Again, I will show you soon enough also why. Let's run this, right? So first of all, we have to make sure that it runs together with the patch. So if we change this to 16th notes, now each note will have a new value, right? And we will have only 8 steps, just like on the DFAM, right? Of course, you can choose as many steps as you like. Let me clear this, right? And this we will map to the gain or the drive of the filter, right? And now we can sequence this. Oh yes. Right, this will be velocity. Right, and we have the velocity sequence. Right, now as I mentioned, this is only inspired by the DFAM, it's not a recreation of it. So let's use another sequencer for the decay of the amplitude envelope. So what I can do, I can just duplicate what I have already. Right, this we will call amp or amplitude decay. Right, just so we know what it will control. And again, this will control the decay of the amplitude envelope. So this we will map to the decay. We can take the decay all the way down. Now we can control it from the sequencer. Let's clear it. And let's start with. Very nice. Right, we can also randomize this. Right, so we get something percussive with some movement, with some variation. Now let me show you quickly why I don't use the sequencers inside of the patch itself. Right, so I will add 2-step sequencers just like what we have now. Right, you can see they are already running by default, but that's not an issue. We can also turn this off. But I really like polymeters and polymetric modulation. Basically, this means that we have multiple sequencers running at the same rate, but they have different number of steps. So for example, the upper sequencer has 8 steps, and I would like the lower one to have only 7 steps, right? But you see what happens. They always start on the same, or they start at the same time on the first step, right? And instead of polymeters, we get polyrhythms, which can also be quite interesting, but I like the idea of polymetric modulation more. And this happens because of the phase signal. The sequencers will always stay in phase. There is a way to turn this into polymeters, but it's a bit convoluted if we have to do this for each sequencer. By the way, let me know in the comments if you are interested in videos about phase, about polymeters, about polyrhythms. But now, if I change the steps on the modulators, right, on the other hand, we will actually get polymeters, which is always fun. So let me remove these 2 sequencers. Right, again, let's run everything. And now let's say that the velocity sequence, right, will only have 7 steps instead of 8. Right, so now we get polymeters instead of polyrhythms, and both sequences will meet each other at different points in time. Right, so we have more movement. Change the sound a bit. Right? So we get interesting variation. Now let's add another sequencer just for fun and set it to control the cutoff. So again, I can duplicate what I already have. Right? This will be cutoff. Right, clear this, map this to the cutoff of the filter. Again, I will take the cutoff for now all the way down. And let's have a listen to this. Maybe you can randomize this a few times. Right, again, the velocity has 7 steps. Here we have 8. Maybe for the cutoff we can have 10. And we have polymetric modulation. Very nice. Now we can have even another sequencer to control the pitch modulation amount, right? So again, I will duplicate what we have. Maybe this one will have 12 steps. This will be pitch mode, right? And this will be mapped to the amount of pitch modulation on both oscillators in this case, right? So now we can close this on the oscillators themselves, and we have this here. Let's clear it. And again, we have polymetric modulation. We have 7 steps on the velocity, 8 steps on the decay of the amplitude, pitch mode 10 steps, and the cutoff of the filter 12 steps. Right, I can add also a delay just for fun. This is the Valhalla delay. To have a bit more movement here. I also have a different clip here with some notes programmed. Right, so it will sound something like this. Right, now this is another reason why I didn't use the sequencers right inside of the patch itself, because now I can go ahead and I can see what's going on, and I can change also everything without the need to go inside the patch, look for the right sequencer and make the changes, right? So for example, the cutoff modulation sequencer, I can change its amplitude. Right, I can change the velocity, maybe make the velocity longer, let's say 16 steps. Right, and like this, make changes. Without the need to go really inside of the patch itself. Right, go between the sequencers, switch between them, and I can see exactly what's going on and make the changes without having to look for the sequencer inside of the patch. So again, I created a few more variations with macro controls and everything. If you're interested, links in the description. I will add some more voices to this and play a bit. Thank you for watching. Cheers.